Hey Emma,
Yes, Mountain.
which one of the games that we're discussing today shares its name with a Mediterranean country, a 1971 Broadway musical, and a 1978 feature film?
I don't know. Which game?
Grease! Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I know it wasn't really a joke, it was more of a Jeopardy question, but
Plus, you would get Alex telling you, oh no, actually, I'm sorry, Madeline. It's pronounced Gris. Gris.
I don't think Alex Trebek usually is a pronunciation police.
Oh, Gris and Gris sound so different, though.
But the pronunciation is Grease.
You were looking for Gris, Madeline.
Is that what you think Alex Trebek sounds like?
That's my Alex Trebek voice. But no, I looked it up. I watched some reviews of it just so I could see how to pronounce it, and they were saying Gris.
But I thought, so I actually looked it up because we've talked about this on both episodes. We've been like, how do we pronounce it? I don't know. So I felt like I actually had to look it up because I was going to have to say the word on the air and not just type it. And so I didn't want to make a fool of myself. And because it's a Spanish game studio and it's the Spanish word for gray, I thought for sure. And I actually listened. I went on Google Translate and I made Google Translate lady say it for me, that it was Grease.
Well, maybe it's the reviewers that are misinformed, but I was definitely hearing Gris.
There was an interview with the creator that I didn't watch, and I'm now feeling stupid that I didn't watch it because surely he would say
I
it right.
probably should have looked up an interview with the creator. You're right. That would have been. Unfortunately, Wikipedia does not have a pronunciation guide either.
Yeah, I mean, especially not for like an indie video game that came out 6 months ago. Yeah. Like, yeah, sometimes they'll pronounce words for you, but
You never know. Just whoever wrote this up was also like, I don't know how to pronounce it.
So I think we should probably just split the difference, and then only one of us will look like an idiot.
Yes. And listeners, you can tell us which one of us is the idiot.
Yeah.
We're also talking about, for our old game, we're talking about SSX.
Heck yeah.
What does SSX stand for?
Oh, I looked it up.
Super Snowboarding Extreme.
Incorrect. Give
Darn.
it another try.
Snowboarding Super Extreme.
Snow what? Oh, super
Snowboarding
extreme.
Super Extreme.
Sorry, you broke up the snowboarding so much that I was like, it's not SBSX.
Snow Surfing Extreme.
A little closer. So
I can't. I don't have anything else.
So I guess we're gonna go ahead and start talking about our old game, SSX. So SSX stands for actually different things in different games. So it was kind of a trick question for you.
What?
It was originally stood for Snowboard Supercross. But then with the 2012 reboot, they started to say it stood for Snowboarding, Surfing, and Motocross.
And motocross? Was there motocross in later SSX games?
Was there surfing?
I mean, snowboarding is like surfing.
Look, I didn't read it that much on the 2012 reboot because it does not fall into the old game category, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think that they were in a difficult position of giving themselves a tricky acronym, and they wanted to rebrand a little bit. And were they fully successful? Can't say I find snowboarding, surfing, and motocross to be a very compelling acronym. But fortunately, no one ever really refers to SSX as anything other than SSX. It's basically never been branded as Snowboard Supercross or anything like that. Although in Japan it was sold as extreme racing snowboard, or so it had some kind of extreme thing at the front of it. I can't remember. I thought it was a little bit not funny exactly, but the Japanese transliteration was the extreme was pretty much just extreme. Which I was like, that's too bad. That's too bad there's not a Japanese equivalent of extreme starting with an X. I hope there is.
They don't really have X's.
I know, but I hope that there's something that conveys that kind of tackiness.
Yeah.
even if it's not the word extreme. Like, I just want there are Japanese speakers in our audience, if there are any of you. Is there a way in Japanese to do that kind of, like, tacky, like, starting something with the wrong letter in a language that doesn't have letters like that? Let us know. But we're not here to talk about the Japanese language, really. We're here to talk about SSX. So SSX, as you might have picked up from the commonality of the acronym including snowboarding, is a snowboarding game. The first edition of it was released in 2000. It's developed, perhaps not surprisingly, because it's both a sports game and it's about a winter sport, by EA Canada. Originally for the PS2. And pretty much mostly for the PlayStation. They eventually released some stuff for the Wii later on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was sort of part of the PS2 launch library, which is kind of interesting.
Seems to line up.
Yeah.
Just a year later, too, they let out SSX Tricky. It's not actually spelled Tricky, but that's how they say it in the game, from what I remember.
So I wanted to confirm that with you, because as I was reading about the games, I couldn't tell if we didn't own the game, right? We didn't own SSX, did we?
No, we played it at our grandma's. So it must have been our cousins who owned it.
That's what I thought, because I remember playing it at their house in Pennsylvania, too. But I was unsure if we played SSX Tricky, as I just said it. But if you have a memory of how it's said in the menu, we must have played that. But then I was reading about SSX 3, and I was like, this sounds a little bit more like the game that I remember playing. So I'm not sure if
maybe I've just picked up there's just like a song in SSX Tricky that goes like, it's tricky. So maybe I just picked that up from somewhere else, because of course I would, right? But I do have a strong memory of that song. But anyway, what I was going to say is just like SSX Tricky was more of an updated version of SSX than a new installment in the series.
Yes, only had a couple new tracks, pretty much the same. But yeah, as I was reading about it, I was like, I feel like maybe we must have played both, and we just always called it SSX Tricky. Well, I really split the difference there, and that was like kind of an awkward pronunciation. But
I feel like it sound fancy there.
Tricky.
Tricky.
I feel like we must have played both, because 3 definitely they were like talking about all the different gameplay modes and sort of the greater emphasis on what I remember to be the primary source of fun in this game, which was designing your character.
Right, yeah.
So I don't really feel like this game needs like that much explaining, but I'll explain it real quick now. Hey, it's a snowboarding game. So you snowboard. And there's like
But you also do tricks.
Right, so there's racing modes, and there's like more like trick modes, as there are in kind of any skateboard, snowboard type game, right? And starting with SSX Tricky, they're called Uber tricks, I think. That was not vocabulary that I remembered, but it feels consistent with the snowboarding thing, right? That would like give you extra speed and that kind of thing. But it's basically what you would expect it would be. So, for once, I don't have to go into an aggressively long-winded explanation where, as Emma said to me last time, like, you don't have to explain the whole plot. Not last time. Whenever we were talking about something and you were like, please don't explain it all. And I was like, okay, fine.
Maybe it was The Longest Journey, I think. We were talking about that.
Maybe.
And you were like, and here's the setup of how the worlds are. I'm like, Madelyn.
Stop.
Leave it to Wikipedia.
Don't go down the rabbit hole. But yeah, I remember the great joy of SSX being making incredibly large snowboarders.
Yeah. Or, like, incredibly skinny ones, too, I remember. Like, having really, really tall, string-beaten ones.
Anywhere in the 4 corners, right?
Yeah. I do, now that I looked at it, like, I think we did have SSX3, because I do remember, like, the Big Air, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Those different game modes, which seem to have only been introduced in SSX3. But, like, in addition to just, like, racing and trick racing, there was, like, you would go down the slope. Like, the actual sport Right, you go down the slope and you go in the big air and you do a bunch of tricks and then you land them for points.
Well, the SSX. I started to say the SSX as opposed to the executive because anything with an X in it now is going to start to come out as SSX for me this episode. The executive producer for this game was actually a snowboarder, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he worked on the first 3 and then he moved up in the company and didn't work on the other ones. But I thought it was crazy that it's wow, someone was making. I would never assume that the people making the FIFA games, right, that anyone in a high position there played soccer or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
Or that the Madden team is led by a former football player. That would be weird. I mean, it would be weird, but it'd be a little weird. And to find out that the guy was actually a snowboarder, I was like, wow, that's how this game got made. Because I guess, this was sort of peak Tony Hawk time. Pro skater
Tony Hawk
time. This is the kind of peak years of the skateboarding game. So I sort of see where snowboarding came from, but it's kind of weird when you think about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to have it be the only thing.
Yeah.
Have the entire game centered around snowboarding as opposed to just winter sports or something to that effect.
Yeah. Are there any other snowboarding games that you can think of?
Wii Sports.
Sure, Wii Sports. Fine.
I mean, no, that's it, as far as I can think of.
And that's because SSX really perfected the genre.
They perfected the genre and then they left it behind.
Absolutely. Yeah, so SSX sold super well. Really well reviewed. This surprised me. I was reading about it. They're it got excellent critical reviews and won some awards. And I was like, SSX? It was a different time in 2000.
Hey, man, those games were fun.
Not saying they weren't fun. I'm just thinking, would I ever read a review of a Madden game or, any kind of not even a Madden game, honestly, because those are high profile. Would I ever read a review of some kind of, not to call snowboarding second tier. It's the most, it's the thing that people are most interested in watching unless they're into figure skating during the Winter Olympics, right? But I just can't imagine somebody, again, I'm always doing this. I'm I can't imagine today, but I'm going to parody myself here. I can't imagine a game like SSX coming out today and getting any kind of critical attention.
I don't know. I mean, you're saying, would I ever read a review of Madden? And the answer is actually, no, because you're actually only interested in that or not interested in that. But if something came out that was more weird and niche or Skate 4 or whatever the meme is, that would be something that I would be more interested in. You said figure skating, and now I'm where's my SSX figure skating?
Where is it, EA Canada? Where is it?
Extreme figure skating? That sounds awesome.
Make it. Honestly, save it for our crossover.
EA's too busy, milking us all out of our money, so...
EA's too busy slowly, in the pursuit of a few years of cash, bringing the video game industry to its knees.
Anyway.
But no, more what I was saying is that... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm doing it, because I'm rude. I just mean that even though sports games, I feel are gigantic moneymakers, they aren't games that I think of as being, especially now, being these are games that are going to be critical darlings, right? There are certain types of games that you expect to be reviewed well, and it's just a game, if Tony Hawk came out, we released a game again in 2019, it would not be a game that I would expect to get good reviews.
Well, I think it depends, right? If EA made it... I don't even know if that's true. If EA made SSX with high production values, that would probably be good. But also if an indie studio made it, and it was just, one of those, physics-based puzzlers, right, are all the rage right now. Mm-hmm. So if you could, flip your snowboarder around or whatever, that would be loved. That would be beloved.
I know. Just the difference in how games are packaged. This AAA, saw multiple places, because it's from EA. It's a AAA snowboarding game. It's just weird to think about. It's yeah. But it reminds you that people buy all sorts of games all the time. Like, I forget about this sometimes, that, like, people buy millions and millions of copies of Madden, and people buy millions and millions of copies of FIFA and whatever, and the NBA 2K, or all that stuff. And even though I don't think about it in the critical landscape as much, that those are, for many people, most of their experience with games.
Yeah. I mean, it's different with those because, like, there's not, when a new one comes out, there's not necessarily much to write about it.
No, that's fair.
Like, what's the difference between FIFA 19 and FIFA 20, really, functionally? Probably not very much.
They, like, tweak the game modes, and there's, but yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, they do stuff to it, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, it's the same base game, and you're just going to say the same things about it. So it becomes a little bit like, well, it's FIFA 19, but it looks a little better and runs a little better. Right? You're not gonna write about it unless they're doing something radically different or it's horribly messed up in some way.
I guess it's just hard to imagine someone releasing a AAA sports game that was not really based on any, like, the big three sports or any real people.
That's fair.
Today.
It's the real people one, especially.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Maybe, honestly, once microtransactions are outlawed, maybe these kinds of games will come back. These, like, non-licensed sports games. You know?
Maybe. Yeah.
Or rather, once microtransactions have been regulated to the point that they're a real liability to include in your game.
Uh-huh. No, I think I've said before, but, like, I think that there's a lot of space in the sports zone that is not being taken advantage of by video games. Like, you just have those main ones, but then, like just like sports is such, like, an obvious way to introduce competition into your game without violence, right? So it's weird that not as many people have taken advantage of it, besides Wii Sports.
Besides Wii Sports.
Wii Sports, the pinnacle of the gaming world.
I just think it's hard to compete, right?
With Wii Sports?
Not with Wii Sports. But kind of.
It is, it's true.
Kind of, though, because, so it's like, okay, if you're, like, a serious sports gamer, right, you're already invested in, like, FIFA or Madden or whatever, right? Like, you're already sort of invested in that, and that's going to be what you play, and you're probably not going to play, like, other sports games. Maybe you are. I don't know who you are. Some of you are. But if you're, like, really into it, you don't want to, you're going up against some behemoths, right?
Yeah.
But I want some weird sports games.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that I've been playing Fire Emblem this week, and if you put me in charge of, like, a high school tennis team, like, that would be a game that I would play.
Yeah.
If I was the coach of some high school sports team trying to take them to nationals, like, I would play that game so much.
I just think the casual gamer sports market has maybe not been tapped. Or the just a step above casual gamer sports market has not been tapped. Like, who's competing with Wii Sports now that nobody has a Wii? When is Switch Sports gonna come out?
I would get Switch Sports.
I do not have a way to play Switch Sports, really, in my apartment. But I would still probably... It feels like it should be a free download, to be honest. In the same way as, like, did anyone who owned a Wii not own Wii Sports? Like,
I don't think so.
I think it's literally was outlawed. There's actually a law against it. So I feel like if they were to develop Switch Sports, it would have to be as, like, a free download that they gave to everyone. And everyone would love it. It'd be like Pokemon Go. Everyone would lose 5 pounds.
See, I wouldn't object if they decided we're gonna make a Wii Sports every year. Just like they still put Just Dance out on the Wii, for instance.
Yeah.
So.
And just more and more obscure sports every year.
Yeah. Some polo. Some What's the one where you roll the balls towards the other ball?
What?
Baka?
Bocce?
Bocce?
Yeah.
Some bocce. Some, backgammon. That's a real thing, right?
Backgammon I would not describe as a sport.
I don't know what backgammon is.
Board game, maybe? Depends on how you define sport.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, anyway, to sort of roll back around to SSX. It was on the Wii, by the way. There was an SSX that was on the Wii. So I guess, really, it was not called Wii Sports. That was not the joke I was setting up.
Which one? SSX Blur?
I think so, actually, yeah. I love that the reboot that they then abandoned in 2012 was going to originally be called SSX Deadly Descents.
Could you, like, kill your
Don't know. Clearly they veered away from that, but I think a dark SSX would have been an excellent experiment.
Yeah. Like, you better land those tricks or else your surf... I keep trying to say surfboarder. Else your snowboarder will be crippled for life.
That got darker than I was ready for it to be.
Well, it said deadly descent, right? What? You wanted me to say, you better land those tricks or they'll snap their neck and then it'll really be a deadly descent.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying, that's the thing that comes to mind.
I was thinking more, you know the sport, I can't remember what this is called off the top of my head, but you know the sport you ski and you shoot?
Hockey?
No. There's one where you ski and then you do shooting while you ski.
Backgammon.
No. I have to look it up now. Shooting while skiing. The biathlon.
Okay.
Combines cross-country skiing with rifle shooting. I was thinking that, but with humans instead of targets.
Oh dear. That's worse than mine.
Yes, but it's more in the realm of, like, video game. You know, like, I was just talking
I was thinking more like, you've designed your character, right? But once you don't land a trick too badly, you can't use that character anymore. You have to make a new one.
See, this feels like we're mashing this up with some non-existent game.
With Deadly Descent.
Seriously. Also, did you know SSX got a lot of praise for its voice acting?
It's tricky.
Which, like, it's not even that I have nothing against, I don't really remember too much of the voice acting in SSX. It's just weird. It'd just be like, here's a sports game. It has great voice acting. It just feels like discordant.
Yeah.
With what I expect in 2019.
I think there's, like, an announcer that, like, comments on what you're doing.
In my brain almost remembered that, but it was not from this. It was the X-Men Legends combo guy. I think that there was, though. I think that you're right, but...
It was the X-Men Legends combo guy.
He's the only announcer in the world.
He's I want to meet this voice actor who does every single announcer voice in video games.
Yeah.
It's all the same guy.
Yeah.
Just one man. There's
no one else who is capable of doing it.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The announcer.
The announcer.
Well, Emma, do you have any other thoughts on SSX? Would you like to see SSX revived?
I mean, yeah. Sort of. I don't know if I would enjoy it as much now that my tastes have changed, but it was certainly, like that would be something fun to play with the little girls.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. It's the kind of game that would be fun. It'd be fun to play. Because it's not cooperative, right? So you could play it sort of seriously unless you were trying to let them win. But it would still be fun.
We don't let you win.
Sorry. Unless, not that we do that. Just if, hypothetically. But, I mean, okay, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but shout out to Xbox. Ugh. Gagged a little.
Madelyn, please. We are a non-affiliated podcast.
Down with Xbox.
She's gone rogue.
Maybe they should start calling it the SSX box, because They're the only console, weirdly, since I don't think SSX was really on Xbox for a while, at least, but they do make SSX 3 available through their backwards compatibility thing on Xbox One, and Xbox One is really the only, I mean, Nintendo does it a little, but it's really the only console that takes backwards compatibility seriously.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's something that's sort of important to me in my quest to someday play Team Buddies again.
That doesn't even have to do with backwards compatibility. That's just like, it's not anywhere.
Someone make it available.
It's just the last copy of Team Buddies is rotting away somewhere in some collector's basement.
Games don't rot, but yeah.
Don't they?
Do they?
Or corrupt, probably.
Corrupt, maybe. But not rotten, I don't think.
I don't know. What, can discs rot?
How would discs be? No. Maybe if you poured, like, acid on them. Could corrode.
Or rust?
I guess they're plastic, though, aren't they?
I don't know. I feel like if you put anything in, like, a dank and dirty basement and just leave it there, something's gotta happen to it,
I guess
right?
it could maybe warp.
Yeah. Fine.
Like,
it'll warp.
Or, like,
then.
Good luck if you want to play SSX on... There's, like, Game Boy Advance ones, which, like, why would you want that? But those almost certainly don't play anymore.
Well, I mean, we have GBA games that still play.
I guess there's nothing that... Like, sometimes the battery in them dies.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is such a separate conversation, so... But we're just stalling having to talk about the game that we're unclear about the pronunciation on.
Let's move on to GRIS.
That's 100% wrong.
This game, the game that we are talking about now, is
Look,
Gris.
I'm just gonna call it Gris, and you're gonna call it Gris, and
okay.
we can roast ourselves on Twitter after the fact.
Sounds good.
So, Gris is an indie platformer. See, that's the kind of game you expect is gonna get a good write-up. You know?
Yeah.
That's like, that's catnip. That's critic nip. Developed by Nomada Studio, which is a Spanish indie developer, and published by Devolver Digital.
Mm-hmm.
Currently for Switch and computer, although one of the top searches when you search for Gris is Gris PS4? Yeah.
So, I think the Nomada Studio was founded by former people from Ubisoft, maybe?
Ubisoft Montreal.
Ubisoft Montreal, there you go.
So, the Assassin's Creed Ubisoft.
They, like, met a artist that they liked at, like, a bar or something, or
Sure.
party or event. They met an artist, and they were like, hey, we like your art. Want to make a video game? And that's what they did. They made Gris, which is kind of like a journey-like, I guess.
Is that going to be that's our new genre?
Yeah.
A
I
journey,
guess so.
Journeyvania.
Journeyvania. Just in that it's more of a sensory experience than like a mechanics-based thingamajig.
You're
Like,
really
it
trying
has-
to call it you're tap dancing around saying it's less of a game. I can tell.
Well, it's a game.
I know
it's just,
that.
Like, it's not... What I'm trying to say is it's not necessarily focused on, like, specific, like, making things difficult for you, or, like, challenging your mastery of the controls, or making super tricky puzzles for you to overcome, or anything like that. It's just, like, it has those things, but mostly what I want you to do is say, wow, this is pretty, wow, that's cool. You know, that its goal is to be beautiful, I guess. That's its mission statement.
I think it maybe has a little bit more of a mission than that. Story-wise. A little.
I mean, you can... in the sort of the same way of Journey, like you can extrapolate. It's one of those where you can extrapolate a lot of things out of the story, but it doesn't actually really tell you anything.
Right. So that is something I wanted to talk about because again, I feel like
it's time for Sourpuss Madelyn to hit the streets.
Oh my god. That was so mean. I was just gonna say, in the spirit of talking about the kinds of games that you expect to get to be critical darlings, like 5-hour, super beautiful games that are like sort of about depression or sort of about overcoming your fears, right?
Yeah.
It's like, has a game with that sort of description ever gotten a bad review?
I mean, I did see reviews for Gris that were like, this is very short, or like, this is like just a bit too vague for me. So it's like, it's one of those where it's gonna hit some people, and when it hits the right people, it's gonna hit them hard, and therefore get very good write-ups. And then if it just doesn't quite work, it's not necessarily that you dislike the game, it's just that it's not hitting you right.
Ah, but I read the comments in these articles, and they were uniformly kind of garbage.
That's just the internet, Mel.
But that's what I wanted to talk about. Is it like, it's the kind of game that I read about it and I'm like, oh, okay, like there's no way this is that critics aren't gonna like this. And then I know that I'm gonna go to the comments and everyone's gonna be like, it's too short. Like, I want value for my game. There was one comment that was like, if I can get a game for $16, and I have to work 16 hours for that, I want it to be, longer and not shorter. And someone was like, you make $1 an hour? And he was like, not anymore. I said he. I assumed the gender, but come on. But no, they were uniformly...
Poor guy if he made $1 an hour, though. Like, help him out, please.
He was like, I just did it to make the math easy. But they were uniformly like, either they were like, it's too short, or they were like, this isn't the game.
Both those comments, like, can make me tired. Like, debating what is and isn't a game, first of all, I've come to sort of believe is a waste of time.
Well, yikes. You're not gonna love when I talk to you about our YouTube series coming up from being Clickbait Boyfriend, but okay, go ahead. No big deal.
I
just gonna scratch some stuff off.
I don't necessarily mean in a philosophical stance. I mean from, like, a critical stance.
Yeah.
Being like, is this a game? It sounds like it's like, well, you've decided to write about it on your game site, so is that a question that you need to answer, really? No. You can just tell me how much, like, mechanics are in there, and I can make a value judgment for myself. But the other one is like, what were you expecting, I guess? Like, if you were worried about it being short, then you should have waited for the reviews to tell you how long it was, and then make your call from there. And, like, it's not, I don't think it, like, nothing about the look of this is like, yes, this is a 20-hour game with a deep story, with, like, a deep and detailed lore behind it that you can discover in the letters, scattered around the map, and then there's collectibles and microtransactions. Like, none of that, you don't look at that game and get that. You look at the aesthetic of this game, you're like, oh, this is like a 5-hour statement,
and
I guess.
Once again, there's basically maybe books, but there's not really any other form of popular entertainment where, like, you can pay, like, $4 an hour for it. It's really pretty much nothing that comes out to that. Unless you're seeing stuff for free, which is more about your career and who you know, probably, than what those are actually being sold for. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I sometimes think books feel a little expensive, but that's just because I'm poor, I guess. Like, personally me. But, like, you're right. Like, this is, like, a $16 game, and you can buy a book for 16 hours that, depending on how fast you read, will take you less or the same amount of time. So it feels a little silly to be like, but where's my content?
Anyway, we're all spoiled. But then I was thinking today, as I grappled with the several games that have come out in the past week or so that I'm, like, interested in buying, I was grappling with today. I was like, man, like, the reason I haven't bought these games is because $60 feels like a lot of money to spend on a game. Even though I then turn around and go on this podcast and I'm like, oh, games should be like $200. I mean, no, I don't say that. But,
Yeah.
I then turn around in this podcast and it's like, why aren't games already $80?
Yeah. I mean, like, I get a little bit of, like, I don't know, like, sometimes a 5-hour game is nice, too, in between all of these, like, 40 to 80 hours extravaganzas. Like, sometimes you just need something that's a little bit easier to digest, or demands less of your life from you, and that's sort of what Gris is.
It's nice to have a game that I feel like it was refreshing to play Deltarune, even though I recognize that is not finished. But it was nice to have a game that I didn't have to have on my list of games for several months minimum.
Yeah.
And I imagine there were a few. I'm over stereotyping the comments. There were a few, like, tired dads in the comments being like, I've been looking for a game that I don't have to play for years. Like, this seems like it might be a good fit.
Yeah. That's also a subsect of the comments, always, I feel like.
The tired dad.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I will say, though, that, like, while I've argued with you before about, like, the value of ambiguous storytelling, like, sometimes I, like, as we've progressed on this podcasting journey, I feel like, having played more games, I become more and more appreciative of games with more concrete messaging. Like, when it like, even just, like, small games that came out last year, like Celeste or The Missing, are, like, puzzle platform type games like this that have, like, a concreteness to what they're trying to say, that isn't just like, ooh, she's restoring the world and herself with it. Like what that Gris is. You missed my little interpretive wiggly dance.
The interpretive wiggly dance is kind of an important part of the aesthetic, so rewind and imagine it.
So, I think still that ambiguous storytelling can be good. I mean, I still really loved Journey and Flower when I played them, for instance, but I don't know. It is a little bit like, well, what was I supposed to get from that at the end sometimes?
I just think, to me, there's a higher degree of difficulty to being able to pull off something more specific. And that's not necessarily, there's nothing wrong with telling the kind of ambiguous story that more people are going to feel affected by, because they don't have to, they're not like, I can't identify with this because it hasn't ever happened to me exactly like this.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I also think that's kind of dumb, so.
Yeah. Welcome to Talk This Podcast, where we think everybody's dumb. Including ourselves.
Everyone's dumb. It's fine. We're all here.
It's safe to be dumb here.
Yeah.
We accept you. But anyway, Gris, as we sort of hinted at, you play as a girl named Gris. I don't think you ever actually learn her name, but it's it's sort of outside material will tell you her name is Gris or Gris. And she, like, wakes up in a statue's palm and tries to sing, but then she loses her voice and the statue crumbles, and she discovers that the world has gone, like, colorless, and so she can go to 4 different other areas of the world to restore color to the world. And there's some light puzzle solving and, running around and interacting with things. But it's mostly running around and looking at things and traversing the environments that come your way.
Wow, Emma, several sentences about the plot of the game.
But I didn't go into the deep lore, so that's all you needed.
Whatever. It's fine. No big deal. Not sensitive.
And it all has this very, like, watercolor aesthetic to it.
Well, they hand drew it. They did a lot of hand drawing before they put it into the computer.
Yeah.
Or they hand drew on the computer, which I realize sounds like an oxymoron, but is not. And they said, like, 80% of the team was animators.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me, yeah. Because there is a lot of animation in this game, and sort of the traditional style of animation, rather than, like, the 3D graphics that a lot of games have. So, it doesn't surprise me that most of the team was animators.
It's too bad this game couldn't have been photorealistic, though.
Yes, this game would have worked exactly the same amount of well had it been.
Everything would work better if it was photorealistic.
Especially her, like, weird little noodle arms and legs.
Yes.
Those I want photorealistic noodle arms and legs.
Please. Then it becomes a horror game.
Yeah. We've made another accidental mashup here.
Yeah. I don't know what horror game would adequately... Well, anything, right? Because there's no real specific story. So literally any horror game. Perfect.
Yep.
So, should we try to squish these into one beautiful, tricky game?
Oh, I guess so.
This is very difficult.
Aesthetic snowboarding.
Yeah, it's just like
you snowboard through the fields of color and mosaic and flowers.
You can't snowboard through flowers.
It's the part in Kingdom Hearts 3 where you just slide down the hill with the flowers.
That's it. That's the whole game.
That's the whole game.
It's 30 seconds long. We'll be charging $5.99. But the replay value.
Please enjoy. Yeah.
No.
There's deep replay value.
It's called The Border. You're a snowboarder who's gotten caught in an avalanche. You seem to be the only survivor. But you need to make your way... I don't know how you have to make your way down the mountain as you've been caught in an avalanche, but we'll work it out.
By snowboarding. Snowboarding on
no, but
the
it's
avalanche.
like if you're in an avalanche, you're probably not on top of the mountain anymore. But... I don't know. We're working out the geographical kinks here.
You've got to snowboard up the mountain with the power of the avalanche.
That makes no sense.
You have, like, subsumed the force and energy of the avalanche into yourself, having been caught in the avalanche. And in order to restore things to how they were and sort of revive the mountain from this avalanche, you must snowboard up the mountain.
You're right. I was trying to think of, like, there has to be an explanation for this, but that was silly.
Yeah. No, you're going against, like, the flow of, time and reality and Newton's laws of physics.
Yeah, and when you reach the top, you realize this is not coming from anywhere. It's been Mount Olympus the whole time. And... Because Gris.
And that was planned.
And you're just swept up and embraced by the gods.
Yeah.
Also, you can make yourself tall and skinny if you want.
There's only the four corners. Nothing in between.
There's also an announcer who says mysterious things, who you find out at the end was Zeus.
So it's getting over it with Zeus Olympus.
We'll make a sequel that's you descending the mountain into Hades.
That's dark.
Well, it's called Dangerous Deadly Descents.
Deadly Descent. It's okay. Hades is a cool guy. He just gets, you know, the bad face.
Hades is very in pop culture right now, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's okay.
Do you feel like it
fine.
could be stronger?
I feel like it could be stronger. I feel like the issue is that, and maybe this is more of the SSX coming in, maybe that could be justification for it, but there's not enough, like, environments, like, you're just, like, going up the mountain. I guess you could make the mountain, like, weird mountain. Like Celeste Mountain, I guess.
Have we just created Celeste? No, because there's not as much gameplay.
We've created Celeste with slightly less difficulty, and also at the end, the gods accept you into heaven. So, spoiler alert, that does not happen in Celeste.
But, like, the nice thing about it is it's like, were you dead all along, and were you a soul journeying to the top, or are you a god, or are you just immortal? Like, you know. A lot of different
it's got
things
some mystery to it.
That our players could wonder about. That we would never explain.
Discuss. It's a secret. It's up to player interpretation.
Ooh. Ah.
Ooh.
I'm trying to think if there was a way to do it the other way, though. Like, can I make it mostly the gameplay of SSX?
Well, that's the sliding down the hill of flowers, right? It's just pretty SSX.
Alternately, it's like Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, but it's like we've updated, like it's SSX. It's like the graphics
SSX
are now
Nitro Fueled.
The graphics are now like almost distractingly. There's like too much going on in the background.
SSX Greasy Measy.
Ew. I don't know why you, like. Ugh. I just like that gave me like a visceral like that sounds terrible.
Just Grease Field then.
No.
Can't you make like energy with grease?
What do you mean by that?
Like a grease engine?
Yes, I think so. I didn't literally mean it was Crash Team Racing. I just meant in the same way as they updated that to look pretty.
Yeah. But I think you would have to have like the snow be like multicolored.
I just had an idea.
And
though.
like sort of act more like sand when you like sort of going.
It's snowboarding, but
everywhere.
you like your snowboard trails paint behind you, so you get bonus points for painting pretty things.
Oh, I see. So you have to make some flowers or something somehow.
Yeah, like with your tricks, you have the opportunity to like paint by numbers, basically, or to create your own creation.
I see.
This would allow for some fun like Mario Maker stuff too, where people could do their own stuff, and only a third of them would be penises. So
that's an optimistic number.
You're right. I was just hoping. I don't know. But now it's like I've created SSX Splatoon.
Yeah, you're right. That is kind of just Splatoon, isn't it?
Well, there's no real gameplay, though.
What do you mean? You have to do tricks.
You're right, you do, but there's no shooting unless we're doing the
tricky.
Unless we're doing SSX Biathlon Splatoon.
I think we've lost Gris somewhere in here.
Yeah, Gris definitely sort of faded out of that one a little bit. But I think I think the border has a future, not the least because border and border homonyms.
Uh-huh.
Like he's crossing the border into heaven.
Uh-huh.
But he's also a snowboarder. Right.
But what is the border?
It's up to the player's interpretation.
Okay, we have something.
When somebody makes a dark snowboarding game like that in a couple of years, I'm gonna feel vindicated.
Never let any of your friends say that we don't come up with anything at the end, because we always do come up with something.
Are people's friends saying that?
They probably are. They share it with their friends, and their friends are like, what's this thing at the end? They never come up with anything. And you say, they sure do come up with things. That's the defense.
Things come up, for sure.
Do you want to talk about other things that come up, Madeline?
Yeah, folks. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of Talk This.
It's Dangerous Podcast Alone.
Wow. You left me hanging with big air there.
I am setting up the random pickers, Madeline.
I was big air. I was doing the big air mode. I was throwing tricks.
It's up to you to land that. I can't help you.
Did a 720.
A 720?
My guy broke his legs in the fall. Can't walk again. Deadly descents.
Okay,
So I was
let's
waiting
go.
for the
Let's
It's
move on
Dangerous
here.
to Podcast Alone parachute to eject, and it didn't. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Okay.
Hey, if you liked the show, you should check out all the different ways you can get involved more with Talk This. The first of which is you can check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read more about us, you can see the games in the hat, and you can read the Talk This blog, featuring long-running series Clickbait Boyfriend, where my boyfriend plays through the Kingdom Hearts series, and Watch This, aka Split Screen, where we watch these two series, Boys Over Flowers and My Hero Academia. Boys Over Flowers coming to an end soon, so hit us up with suggestions for things that have that kind of K-drama energy, if you have them. How can you hit us up with suggestions? Why, either on the contact page of our website or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talk This Podcast, and we're on YouTube at Talk This Sisters. So check everything out there. You'll always see when episodes are posted, when blogs are posted, when Emma's Play This series comes up on YouTube, when the YouTube series that Clickbait Boyfriend and I are going to start soon comes up, and Emma's like, why are they talking about what a game is? I'm not interested in this. But hopefully you'll be interested in it, and more on YouTube. And last but not least, if you like the show, you should subscribe so you never miss a single episode on Sundays at noon. To subscribe, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify. I almost said Overwatch, but what I meant to say was Overcast.
You probably can't find us on Overwatch, sorry.
Definitely can't find us on Overwatch. Not really our cup of tea. Pandora Podcast on the app, though, that is our cup of tea. And pretty much anywhere podcasts are hosted and provided free to your ears, you can find Talk This. And Emma always posts a blog that recaps all those places. So if you need to just click on a link instead of, I don't know, clicking on the app on your phone, you can. And while you're there, subscribing, leave us a rating and review, share the episode with your friends, all that good stuff. Emma, have you set up now? Have I been doing tricks in the air long enough?
I have set up. So, our old game shall be The Secret of Mana.
Nice. A classic.
And our new game shall be Into the Breach.
Once more.
Unto the Breach.
I know, but the game isn't called Unto, is it? It's Into?
No, it's Into.
I can't believe you're trying to, like, I know the Shakespeare. I can't believe you were like, Madeline probably doesn't know this quote.
I just wanted to correct you.
Madeline probably doesn't know the quote from Henry V.
I was trying to be nice, just trying to remind you, teach you something, you know.
Anyway, listeners, tune in 2 weeks to hear us talk about The Secret of Mana and Unto the Breach. And tune in next week for a side quest, where we'll be talking about what we've played over the past 2 weeks. Hint, finally finished Assassin's Creed. Get excited.
Hint, Emma has way too much to talk about.
Hint, Emma has done nothing but play video games. Emma is playing video games literally right now.
Emma is currently on her Switch, trying to make her students like her.
If only it was that easy.
I'm so proud of them and so scared for them at the same time.
Alright, we're gonna put away those emotions until this time next week, but tune in for that. For all sorts of video game discussion.
And I'll check those emotions in my pocket? Okay.
And all the feelings that Emma wants to share with you that we don't have time for right now. So, Emma, now that I've completely squashed your emotions, do you want to sign us off?
I hope that you have a very tricky